Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today I would like to show you my odd mage, which, as you might imagine from its name, has all odd cost cards. It started with this Baku the Moon Eater. Saw a lot of people play this when the expansion first came out, so I crafted one. I will admit I did not fully read the card text. I did not read only odd cost cards. I read upgrade your hero power, so I was thinking, oh, it's like just a card. This is a bit of a weird card. The idea in and of itself is kind of interesting. Um, in practice, though, I've tried this with a mage, obviously, a rogue, warrior, hunter, paladin, just about everything, I think, at this point. And the most efficient deck I've made so far, I think, is probably the mage. I think because the mage has, a lot of mage spells are fairly decent for their cost, and their secrets are 3 costs, so that works with the whole odd card gimmick. It tends to work a little better. I was kind of disappointed because I was getting wrecked by decks that were running this. If you saw this, upgrade a hero power at the end of the game, it was almost just concede when this card first came out. Now, less so. It's a very, I don't know if it's the card or the meta, so to speak. With standard, you're already, limiting the number of cards you can use. So then you put an additional restriction on of only using, half your cards essentially. Yeah, there's not. I think you're somewhat substantially limited in the viability of making a deck. However, I like to think with cards like this, they presume that people will be creative and not just make like a net deck. But unfortunately, that is the way of things. We've seen how that goes. So, Firefly. A lot of these elemental cards, I will tell you right at the beginning, I was kind of disappointed in. I thought they would be better. As somebody who has played, or who has a golden shaman, I have played elemental themes to death, and I was kind of, I thought, okay, what could what type of deck could I make that fit the whole odd cost theme? And I thought, well, elemental mage has kind of, become a thing in this meta. And then, work in some mage spells, and that kind of rounds out the deck. So you can kind of, play on curve, so to speak. It's one of the odd things with this deck is you kind of play, if you play a turn 5 card, you're not going to be able to play another on curve card until like turn 7. So you're kind of playing kind of every other turn until you get, to 8, 9, 10 mana. So it's kind of a strange deck in that way. And so I threw in Firefly thinking, okay, I want to have elementals to trigger these effects. A lot of people are playing Firefly right now. It seemed like a good card. Generally, cards that give you another card are decent. And I don't know. My hand ends up, I have a couple cards that give 2/1s. And I end up with a handful of 2/1s. So yeah, it's probably not a card I would play in a deck that wasn't an elemental theme. Um, but it's a decent turn one play for this deck. Mono Worm, of course. I think about every mage deck I've made has Mono Worm in it, just because it can snowball so quickly and easily. Mirror Image. Usually run Mirror Image with Mono Worm. 2/02s are not terrible for 1 cost. This will help, kind of stretch things along to get you into some of this bigger stuff. So, yeah. Black Hat, I did swap out a few cards, and this was one I swapped out. When I was looking at cards that synergized with odd cost cards, had effects that synergized with odd cost cards. I put this in here mostly for the card draw. Not so much for the spell damage. I don't have a lot of spells that interact with spell damage. Explosive runes will, I'm pretty sure. But mostly for the card draw. 3/3 for 3 is not terrible. So having not just spell damage, but a card draw effect it's okay, just 1. Didn't really see the need to have more than 1. So, again, this is to get you into some of this bigger stuff, or to, draw some of this bigger stuff from your deck. Counterspell, of course. Explosive runes. I like this card. It has very little in terms of a downside, even if you anticipate it. It's hard to counter, because whatever you play is either going to die, get damaged, or you're going to take damage to the face. So unless you have a flare, this is going to end up doing damage. Ice Barrier, of course. This is another one of the elementals that I was kind of disappointed in. At first glance, you're like, okay, a 2/3 for 3. It's not. I would say it's not statted great, but it gives you 2/1/2s. You think, oh, it's really good. Yeah, no, not really. By turn 3, you don't want to be playing a 1 cost 1/2 on turn 4, unless you're trying to set up for, like, something like Servant of Kalamos or something. 2/3 doesn't trade well. This usually dies. Usually the turn after it's played. Just disappointed. I thought there would be better value in a card like this. Monobind. I love this card. A card that gives you a card that your opponent plays is good in and of itself, I think you could argue. Giving you a card that's 0 cost, even if the card's not that great that you get, it's not going to cost you anything. And it most likely synergizes with Mono Worm. So, yeah, I think with this, it's more about, kind of with Counterspell, you want to play it, help protect your board. When you play it is, the better, what am I trying to say here? The more effective it is based on when you play it. And this is very much the same way. So, a lot of times if your opponent plays like a, I'll say like a Flame Strike, for example, they wipe your board. Well, guess what? Next turn you have a Flame Strike, now you can wipe their board. So it's a bit of, kind of like that. And unless you, um, played it early game and got some low-cost spell that really wasn't worth it. Yeah. Tar Creeper. Easily the most overused card this expansion. I'm getting so tired of seeing this played. As I remember, like I said with Black Cat, I know I swapped some cards out. I don't think Mirror Image gave me enough taunt in this. I think that's why I worked these in. For what it does, it's decent. 3/5 on your opponent's turn is decent. 3 damage to whatever they run into this, and then 5 damage to get it off the board. It's getting mostly annoying just seeing it played like in every deck. I think that's my only complaint with this. Vaporize. This is, so going back to the whole, you can only play like every other turn kind of deal. This is when you have nothing on the board and you're trying to get, to turn 5 or to turn 7. And they have something on the board. The only thing this doesn't really work against is a rogue with the legendary weapon. They will just, they go through this deck like nothing. I've had some long games where I've gotten to the bitter end where both fatiguing, and because the legendary weapon keeps all the enchantments that you use on it, even after it the durability's destroyed. I think it shuffles back into your deck. But of course they have cards that can draw them a weapon, so that's the only weapon they put in their deck. So this that's like the only thing that Vaporize doesn't work against, obviously, because it's not a hero attacking, it's not a minion. Otherwise, this is really about as devastating as a Flame Strike in some cases. I mean, it will put your opponent at that much of a disadvantage if you play it at the right time. Zola the Gorgon. This was, at first glance, this didn't seem that impressive. Add a golden copy to your hand. The key word there is to your hand. So you can copy anything. It's back to full health. It has all its battle cries or death rattles or what have you. 2/2 stats are not great, but for what it does, I'm willing to overlook that. Yeah. So, depending on your strategy, especially something like Ysera, if you get like an Emerald Drake and you wanted another Emerald Drake, well, there you go. Throw that down and suddenly you have another Emerald Drake. They do keep their mana cost, which is fair. I mean, you're copying a card. You're not. Golden cards have the same mana cost as anything else. So, I really, this card is one of those that can be a backbone of some decks. It's definitely worth its weight, so to speak. Servant of Kalamos. Again, this I thought would be better. I've said this before. When you have something like Elemental, and you have a vast diluted pool of cards to choose from, I thought maybe I'd get another Blazing Caller. You can through discovery you could choose even cost cards, things like that. I thought I put in Firefly and different things to make sure that I had a 1/2 to play to trigger this effect, and it's a little, I guess, lackluster, I would say. 4/5's decent stats for 5, I think, plus a battle cry effect and discover effect. It just doesn't seem to be quite the value that I thought it would be. Blazing Collar. Now this is the one elemental that it's decent. 7 mana seems a little high cost, but you're doing 5 damage. So you can get, as long as you've triggered the battle cry, you can get lethal with this. You can destroy a minion with this. You can do a few different things with this. I only have one, because I think I only had one at the time. And yeah, it's not, it's for the cost and for having to trigger it. For a deck like this, I think 1's probably decent. Again, with Gorgon, you can, copy this, but then you have to worry about trying to play Elemental that next turn or that same turn to trigger the effect. So yeah, I think having to trigger the effects makes it a little high cost for 7 mana. I think 5 or 6 would be better. Yeah, Flame Strike, of course. Alexstrasza. I said I was running Alexstrasza in a lot of decks, and I was not kidding. I think it's been in almost every deck I've made a video for so far. With a deck like this, Alexstrasza actually can be used either on your opponent or yourself, really. I think that might have been why I put it in here, was for healing. Depending on the game and your opponent, you could be, assuming maybe you didn't draw your ice barriers. I don't run ice block in this deck. You can be pretty, in a pretty bad disadvantage by turn 9. So, the battle cry and the stats and everything, it's a good card to have. Baku, the Moon Eater. I know I've played this, but it's been so rare. Usually, it's in the deck for the effect more than anything else. Frostless Jaina. Now this is where this deck kind of gets interesting, because all your elementals have lifesteal at this point. So suddenly, these 1/1s and things don't become so bad. Everything's healing you. And not only that, when you're a 1/2 is just not great, after like the first 3-4 turns. If you can damage something though enough that you can ping it off with your hero power, you get a 3/6 water elemental. And then things are starting to get out of control. This has won me the game in this deck and other decks. It's a bit of an odd card. it's somewhat of a situational card. It just playing it does not automatically mean you're gonna win, as is the case oftentimes with like the Hunter Death Knight card. If you play Deathstalker Rexar, you get to create a zombie. You can pick a taunt. You can pick. You make it through a discovery. If you're trying to get something though, you can pick taunt. You can pick poisonous. You can try to get lifesteal. Chances are, if you're smart with what you choose, you can turn a game around in your favor and win. I've played Jaina and still lost, especially if they've gained a lot of momentum. If she had some sort of, I think rather than summoning a water elemental, if she had some kind of like freeze your opponent's minions for a turn, or something else, some other effect, I think she'd be slightly better. A lot of the other Death Knight cards have like an AoE effect. This is one of the few that does not. So it's a bit of a, you play it and you expect something to happen, and it all it does is summon a water elemental and gives everything lifesteal, and you're like, oh right, I'm still in the same situation. But overall, not a bad legendary. And then Ysera, because why not? You're gonna have to have if you can only have odd cost cards, I think Ysera is one of the better odd cost cards, and this really works. The dream card she gives you really actually kind of increase in value, because even the Laughing Sisters are not terrible at this point. When these lower cost elementals are so weak as far as their stats, that a 3/5 is an improvement. So they can't be targeted by spells or hero powers. So yeah, so there you go. So let's play a couple games. I tend to notice I have either really short games, just games.
Jaina versus Jaina.
You asked for it. Oh, it is on.
Wouldn't that be fun if she had the same kind of deck? So we want elementals. Yes, we do. Okay, I'll take Mono Worm.
None will survive.
No, apparently not. I half expected her to do the same thing. Okay. Do I play 2 or do I play 1? You know what? Against another mage, I think we gotta be kind of aggressive. Let's throw that out there. If she frostbolts 1, we still have the other one. Or arcane missiles. Okay. Now see, against another mage, monobind, you know is going to be fairly good. She already used an arcane missile, so if that was the only thing she could do... I don't like that. No, I don't. I kind of want this.
An incredible discovery!
Okay. Unfortunately, we don't have another turn play. Unless we draw something, so that's out of her vaporize, which is not brilliant, but I think we play it to just to go face and get some more damage off here. Chances are at you know, we're on turn 5 by the time she gets through the taunt and starts to come for my face. We're going to be into bigger things, so I'm not too terribly concerned about. What was it? It was a monobind. Okay. Well, just to trigger it again, and I think we'll play Explosive Runes. And just go through. This is why I love Mono Worm. Look at that. She's hardly played anything, which makes me really wonder what's in her deck. She apparently doesn't understand the concept that she's just making my worm, mono worm, stronger here. Oh wow, Ironbark Owl. You don't see that much anymore.
Well played.
And that's GG. Okay. I mean, that wasn't the most exciting game, but win's a win, I suppose. Still kind of curious what was in her hand. Yeah, that's the thing, you play some games and you're like, but I wanted to know what the secret was, or what the card was in your hand. Or...
Uther! I will fight with honor.
You asked for it.
Okay, well, we'll send that back and that back.
None will survive.
Oh boy.
Hello.
Well, this promises to be interesting. I'm talking about how I always had 2 1s in my hand. Well, now they may come in useful. I may end up taking back what I said. So turn 2 probably,
The light dims, but
yeah, probably mirror image
Move
and
quickly.
flame elemental, I imagine. You have 2 of them or something?
the light protects me.
Okay. Well, sorry, dude. I can break your shield and not even break a sweat, so probably run that in, break that shield, and then ping. Yeah. That was kind of strange, considering I can ping that, but okay. I would have just ran those into something and waited to see what I did.
The light protects me.
I must move quickly.
So, run that into there. And then to there.
Job done.
Probably mana buy next turn unless we get something else better. He's got 3 cards, and this is all he's played so far. Is Divine Shield, little things. So. Yeah, I think keeping the board clear at this point is more. He's got 2 cards, so trying to play this for an advantage or something is in this. He got to get through the taunts first. So this again got to get through the taunts first. So. Okay. Now if we could get Vaporize on that, that would be fantastic. Or Flame Strike, we're getting in that range. Can only play one. What do I want to do here? Well, I have no minions, so I'm gonna end up wanting to kill one of those. So I'm gonna do that. Chances are he's not gonna heal it, so set up for a Flame Strike unless it dies to a Vaporize. If not, my poor little mirror image is gonna die. But that's fine, I've got Ice Barrier.
Yes.
I had anticipated, I've seen other Paladin decks that have the upgraded hero power, and they've just dominated. Perfect. So, I think we just lay in his secrets right now. And then we will, hopefully he'll play something else and we can just Flame Strike next turn. Yes, 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 yes. Considering I just played a Vaporize, I would have ran the 2-3 in just in case it was another Vaporize.
Reporting for
Perfect.
duty.
Takes him down to 4 mana.
Speak your peace.
Okay. Wheel, unfortunately, that does stay on the board for another turn, but I can ping it off, so I'll have 8 mana, so 6, 7, 8. Okay, so we'll play Mana Bind versus Monster Stone. Okay, so we'll play Explosive Rune.
Mushroom power!
Oh darn.
Reporting for duty.
Well, on the bright side, all he's doing is buffing this one thing, so if I can get this off the board. Okay, so we'll play that. Seeing a lot of people use this lately. Okay.
Reporting for duty.
And this is going to be so great with Jaina because she's so going to get... Okay, this can work.
Mushroom power!
See, why wouldn't you play that over here? This buffing one thing. This is an amateur mistake right here. Because you're putting all your cards in one basket. He doesn't seem to understand. I mean, yeah, this is 8/5, which I need to deal with, but he doesn't seem to be understanding.
Do not fear power. Fear those who wield it.
So I'm going to run that into there. He can't kill this unless he runs this in. I'm going to run that in. I'm going to get healed. I'm going to ping those off. I'm going to get another one. It's like, am I missing something here? Or do they just not seem to understand what's happening? I tend to believe that... Okay, well that's cute. I tend to believe that there is a... underskilled, if that's the right word, group of people that... Yeah, I mean, he has a golden paladin, I get that, but... well, that shut me up. See, that's what I was expecting earlier on. I thought he just had 1/1s for the sake of having 1/1s. Well played. That's annoying. Okay then.
I concede to your power.
Anyway, to finish what I was saying, I feel like there's a group of underskilled players that you know, maybe don't, you know, they maybe don't, you know, plan their, they don't have a strategy per se, they don't think what your opponent could have. Like I said, that's what I was expecting early game. I guess he just didn't get the card draw that he wanted earlier game. Because anytime I've seen a paladin with an upgraded hero power, that's usually what I ran into, like, early on.
Lunara!
The forest fights back.
You asked for it.
Paladins are getting rather annoying. Some people think there's a skill cap to, or
None will survive.
that Hearthstone is a, you know, requires a high level of skill. I don't necessarily, there's some truth to that. I think it's more just playing enough to get familiar with the cards and um, get familiar with the cards and anticipate what your opponent might be playing. Be able to spot a net deck when you see one. I've played since, okay, what would be the best value here? Turn 3, so swipe's not an issue unless... Who had the coin? I think she had the coin.
What to do? What to do?
Could kill my mono worm. Alright, I'm gonna play that and keep my word because I'd like to keep this at all possible, so... I've played since beta, so for me, I've seen all the cards as they've come out. I can imagine for somebody that's new to the game, that you know, kind of, there's a bit of a learning curve, I'm sure. Well, that could not have worked out any better. So, we will... It took a few playthroughs with this deck to really kind of get the hang of it. That's a little lackluster, I suppose, unless she was trying to play something. Do I ping this and run this in just to keep going face? I think maybe I do. Okay. Well. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to copy this.
Such a perfect specimen.
I could run these in, or if he goes face, he could end up killing that, and then I could go face and win. So I think...
What to do? What to do?
Even if he has a starfall, I'll lose 2 things, I'll keep 3. Because it only does 2 damage if he has the AoE effect. So, yeah, I think we wait. I want to see what he does. If he runs something in, that's fine. We can run something in and then just start going face again. Okay, it looks like I may have been right in my assumption. Oh, he ramped card draw. Interesting. Go face, go face, go face. Damn it. Okay. Well, now we're in a bit of a better situation. So... I think that's GG. Unless you have something... You don't have Reno anymore, so... I
Well played.
still...
I can't win them all.
Okay. I still, I still anticipate Reno. That's how horrible that card was. Okay, folks, well, there you go. Not a bad little deck, if I do say so. So, thank you for I hope you enjoyed that, and thank you for watching.